The rancher, Cole Harland, woke up slowly, his eyes heavy, his breath uneven, and his memory blurred as if someone had torn out half the pages from the day before. The first thing he saw when his vision settled was a young Apache girl sitting quietly beside him, her braided hair falling forward as she checked the damp cloth resting on his forehead. Cole blinked hard, trying to understand where he was and how she had come to be there. His hand instinctively went to the side of his ribs where the bullet had grazed him. His shirt had been partly cut open, bandaged with care, and he realized someone had worked on him with steady, gentle hands. The Apache girl looked up, her expression calm but alert. She didn't rush toward him, didn't show fear or nervousness. She simply sat there watching him regain himself. Cole tried to sit up, but pain shot through his side, forcing him to stop midway. And that was when he remembered the last, blurry moment before everything went dark. He had fallen off his horse near the river after being ambushed by two men trying to steal his cattle money. They had shot him, and he had barely escaped. The world had turned into spinning shadows, and he had collapsed before he could even call for help. Now he was staring at the girl who had brought him out of that darkness. She didn't look older than 20, though her posture held the strength of someone who had survived far more than her age suggested. Her clothes were simple, hand-stitched, decorated with small beads and feathers that moved slightly with every breath she took. She didn't hide the way she observed him, as if studying every slight change in his expression. Something in her gaze was both firm and kind. Cole swallowed and found his voice rough and uneven. "How long was I out?" She lifted the bowl of water to check the cloth again. "A night," she answered softly. "Maybe a little more." "You were burning up." Cole nodded, struggling to pull together the pieces that still felt scattered. He glanced at the healing herbs spread out beside her, at the way she had clearly stayed awake for hours to make sure nothing went wrong. Then something else clicked in his mind. Something strange and unclear but lingering, like a memory that refused to sit still. He frowned. "Did you?" He paused, the words feeling almost ridiculous to ask. "Did you kiss me while I was out cold?" Her brows tightened, not in embarrassment, but in a subtle spark of annoyance at a man who clearly didn't understand what had been required to save him. She lifted her chin slightly, meeting his eyes directly. "I saved your life, sir," she said in a steady tone. "You weren't breathing right." Your chest tightened. "I had to keep you breathing." Cole stared at her, the truth sinking in deeper than he expected. The idea that she had fought to pull him back from the edge, using every method she knew, struck him harder than the bullet had. She hadn't done it for praise or gratitude. She had done it because she couldn't watch someone die if she had the ability to stop it. He didn't know why, but something shifted inside him. This girl, who didn't even know his name, had risked her own safety to drag him into shelter and treat him in the middle of a land where tensions ran high and strangers often brought danger rather than peace. She had the quiet courage of someone who didn't chase recognition. She simply did what was needed. Cole took a slow breath. "What's your name?" She hesitated for a moment, as though deciding whether he had earned the right to hear it. "Ayana," she finally said. "I found you near the river. Your horse came to my camp alone." I knew something was wrong. Cole closed his eyes briefly, understanding now how close he had come to dying. When he opened them again, she was still there, still watching him. Not with the fear he expected, but with a calm steadiness that felt strangely grounding. "You saved me," he said quietly, a statement rather than a question. Ayana didn't nod, didn't accept the praise. She simply added another herb to the bandage and said, "I wasn't going to leave you there." The look they shared in that moment was wordless but powerful. Cole felt the weight of gratitude settle deep in his chest, heavier than the pain of his wound. He wanted to sit up again to show her he wasn't some helpless man lying in her care, but the injury kept him still. Ayana leaned back slightly, giving him space without stepping away from her role as his healer. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Cole watched her hands, the precision with which she wrapped new cloth around his ribs. She wasn't just skilled, she was patient, deliberate, focused. He wondered how many people she had saved before him, how many strangers had crossed her path needing help. She never hesitated to give. "You don't have to stay," he said after a while, though the words felt strangely wrong to speak. "You've done enough." Ayana looked at him with a firmness that reminded him she wasn't the kind of woman who left things unfinished. You can't move yet, she replied. If you try to get up alone, you'll tear the wound open. Then all my work will be for nothing. He almost smiled. Not because the situation was amusing, but because she spoke to him like someone who refused to tolerate foolishness, especially from a grown man who should know better. I'll stay, she said simply. Until you can walk on your own. Cole didn't argue. He wasn't sure if he even wanted to. For the first time since the ambush, he felt something settle inside him, a strange, unfamiliar safety. Not from the walls around him, but from the presence of the woman who had dragged him back into life. I saved your life, sir. Cole woke again after a few hours, the dull ache of his wound reminding him he was not fully out of danger, but he noticed something comforting. Ayanna had not left his side. She sat by the doorway, her legs crossed, carefully threading small beads onto a strip of leather. The quiet rhythm of her hands was soothing, and for a moment he simply watched her, trying to piece together the strange twist of fate that had brought him under her care. When she noticed he was awake, she placed the beads aside and walked to him without hesitation. She checked his bandage, her fingers gentle yet steady, and Cole realized again how deeply he depended on her in this moment. He didn't like depending on anyone. Life on the ranch had taught him to stand on his own, to avoid leaning on people who could vanish or disappoint. Yet here he was, leaning into the quiet strength of a woman he had met only by chance, trusting her without question. I should have thanked you sooner, he said, his voice low. Everything you did. I owe you more than I can say. Ayanna didn't respond immediately. She took a breath, sat back beside him, and looked at him in a way that made him feel seen, not as a rancher, not as a wounded man, but simply as a human being whose life now intertwined with hers. I didn't save you for a debt, she said. I saved you because no one deserves to die alone. Her words struck him deeper than he expected. There was something in her voice that carried the weight of someone who had seen loss too many times, someone who refused to let death take another soul when she had the power to help. Cole wondered what stories she carried behind her calm exterior, what battles she had fought silently. How long before I can move? He asked, trying to sound casual, though the question came from genuine concern. A few days, she answered. But you must not push yourself. Your body needs to heal from inside, not just where the wound shows. Cole let out a slow breath. Staying put wasn't something he was used to. The ranch always demanded action, fixing fences, chasing cattle, managing workers. But here, lying on a makeshift bed with an Apache girl monitoring every change in his condition, he felt something unfamiliar yet grounding, stillness. Ayanna offered him water, lifting the cup carefully so he wouldn't strain himself. When he finished drinking, she set it aside and began preparing a fresh mixture of herbs. Cole watched her hands again, the way she measured each leaf, each root, the way she crushed them with precision. It wasn't just knowledge, it was instinct, discipline, and something almost sacred. You said, I wasn't breathing right, he said quietly, returning to the question that had lingered since he woke. Ayanna paused for a moment before nodding. Your breath faded, she explained. Your chest tightened. I had to keep air in your lungs until the herbs took effect. That is why I did what I did. Cole felt a strange mix of embarrassment and gratitude. The thought that she had breathed life back into him was overwhelming. But the way she explained it, calm, neutral, without shame, made him realize she had acted purely from a place of compassion. You didn't hesitate, he murmured. No, she replied simply. Hesitation costs lives. Cole turned his head to look at her, truly look at her. Ayanna met his gaze with the unwavering strength of someone who had seen enough hardship to know the value of every heartbeat. Her eyes held no regret, only certainty. And suddenly, Cole felt something unspoken settling between them. Respect. Deep, undeniable respect. You saved me, he repeated softly, the weight of the truth settling in his voice. Ayanna didn't smile, but her expression softened, in a way that revealed a glimpse of warmth behind her composed exterior. You're alive, she said. That is all that matters. There was a pause, a quiet moment where the world seemed to hold its breath around them. Cole felt a strange connection forming, fragile yet powerful, born not from romance but from survival, trust, and shared presence in a moment where life had hung by a thread. What will you do when I can walk again? He asked. Will you leave? Ayanna looked out toward the open land before turning her gaze back to him. I go where I'm needed, she said softly. If someone needs help, I help. If the land calls me back home, I follow. Cole didn't know why the thought of her leaving unsettled him, but he couldn't deny it. He wanted her to stay, not out of obligation, not because she had saved him, but because something about her presence felt steady, anchoring, essential. You could stay at my ranch, he offered quietly. Just until you decide what comes next. Ayana studied him for a long moment, her eyes thoughtful, not dismissive. She wasn't a woman who made quick choices based on emotion. She weighed things, understood them deeply before stepping forward. I'll stay, she finally said, until you are strong enough. After that, we will see. Cole felt something settle in his chest at her words. Relief, gratitude, and the quiet promise of a bond being formed. Not forced, not rushed, simply growing naturally from the moment she pulled him back from the edge of death. And as she adjusted the bandage one last time and sat beside him in calm silence, Cole realized something he never expected. His life hadn't just been saved. It had been changed. Forever.